just had another conversation with a friend of mine who doesn't want to talk to me because he thinks that one of my recent videos was supremely stupid in his eyes. Yeah. So let's talk about that. I believe that it's okay to point out what's problematic and also be able to see objective truths such as no one deserves to be treated the way that George Floyd was treated by police. No one deserves to be killed while in custody by police. That shit was awful, right? But also, I can look and say, you know what? George Floyd was a human being, and nobody's perfect, you know? And there are some things that are problematic about him. Today I read an article on CNN about how George Floyd's family would want you to remember him, full of quotes from his basketball coach and, a story about how he left Houston for Minnesota so that he could try his hand at a trucking job. He was in search of work. It was a nice story, and it was telling the good sides of that human being. But in my previous video on him, I noted that in his porn acting career, he was Floyd the Landlord, which is problematic because if your porn character is all about having women pay for their rent through sexual services that you're demanding payment with, then that's problematic. It is. Doesn't mean that he needs to be killed by police, right? Which is one of the comments I got in my comment section. And what's amazing to me is I ended the video by saying, all of this aside, nobody deserves to be killed by the police. And it's okay to see both things. And what I want to say in this little ramble is don't shy away from the truth, even if it gets a little painful, even if it doesn't serve your needs. Okay? My good friend Brian in the comments said, well, now people are going to think it's problematic now that you brought it up. It's out there, The guy's got more views on his porn video than I have in my 3,000 plus videos here on YouTube. There's millions of views on that video. And, there's a whole bunch of people in the comments saying R.I.P. Floyd, Floyd the Landlord. But no, it doesn't make it problematic just because you start talking about it. It's problematic. It's there. And I'm all about talking about the big pink elephant in the room. And I'm all about following the facts until you find the truth. And if it hurts, it hurts. If it helps, it helps. But the truth is important. It's the kind of person I am. I watched, of all things, a video by Atheism is Unstoppable. Not a very, very big fan of social justice warriors like me. And I noted at the end of his video, he's like, well, see, the video from the restaurant stops here, and then the other footage that we get from the bystanders, George Floyd's on the other side of the car. What happened in between there, we don't know. And that's problematic. And I also noted, when I watched the footage on the NBC YouTube channel that came from the restaurant that right as they decided to cut it off, when George Floyd was maybe resisting being put in the car, then they cut it off there because that was like off of the corner, right? Down in the lower right of the video, you can see a woman going into the car that the men were pulled out of, and then you see the park police officer pulling up, which there's body cam footage from him now, right? Which I watched that footage, and the other officer said, hey, make sure no one's getting anything out of that car. Well, the footage that NBC decided to cut off, right when they cut it off, was when a lady was going into the vehicle to get something out of it. You know? And so I think it's problematic that NBC is hiding what happened between when George Floyd was on one side of the car and then he was on the other. You know, the rest of that footage is, you know, got to exist. It's security cam footage from a restaurant. Why did they cut it off right there? You know, these are valid questions. And hopefully in the future we get to see the whole story. And you know what? I can on the one hand say it doesn't matter what's there. What happened to him in the end was wrong. And also, it's important to know the truth, and I want to see the whole footage. I want to see unredacted body cam footage, for one, from the park police officer and the other four, right? I want to see the entire footage from the restaurant, not just cut off before George Floyd makes it around the car and is taken down to the ground. You know, I want to see what was that lady doing? What was she pulling out of his car? I want to see it. And yeah, it might not make any difference as far as whether or not it was wrong for George Floyd to be killed in police custody. You know, that we can all agree on. Doesn't matter what side of the coin you're on. Everyone who looks at that is like, yeah, that's wrong. You know, that's objectively wrong. Right? So, yeah. One more person that I'm going to talk about. His YouTube channel name is Hulakan. And in the comments of my video, he wrote, let me get there, problematic. Are you serious? The fact that George Floyd did porn or was a convicted criminal, which I never brought up, probably used a counterfeit bill in a nearby shop. I never brought that up in my video. And was too stupid to leave the scene. Never brought that up. Has nothing to do with the outrage this incident provoked, which was the last thing I said in my video. Objectively wrong. When the police killed this man in custody while he was already subdued. That shit was wrong. Knee on the neck for 9 minutes. That shit is so wrong. You know, it's revolting to watch, right? So, skip to the end. Hulakan says, this has to be one of the stupidest commentaries on the case I've ever witnessed. Obviously, wasn't paying attention to what I said. Just upset that I'm bringing out another character flaw of George Floyd and pointing out how some people in our community are going to find it problematic. Which is okay to talk about. Because it's the truth. Now let me share the truth about Hulakan. Hulakan has a whole bunch of old videos on his YouTube channel right now after he says, you know, this is the stupidest take on this I've ever seen, unsubscribed. You know, has to leave my channel storming off like that. Let me tell you about Hulakan's channel, right? He's hosting a Betty Boop video right here. And what's that? Some blackface kids eating watermelon. Right? There's Hulakan right there. He's got a whole bunch of subscribers for hosting other people's content, mostly Betty Boop videos. Racist Betty Boop cartoon. You know, why is it important that people have access to that on Hula Khan's channel? I think it's, you know, just as dumb for him to not be explaining why it's important, you know, that this exists, you know, maybe put some commentary to it, you know, maybe explain what was going on in the history of that. So you're just going to, like, host these videos for, I guess, you know, anyone to enjoy. Who's going to enjoy them now? The 22,000 people have watched? Maybe some white supremacists who are thinking, oh, those were the days. You know? Anyways. If you're going to think that my take on things is stupid, I would at least ask that you try to listen to what I'm saying and understand. And just know that no matter where the facts lead, that's where I'm following. And I don't care what your politics are. If what your politics are about this is going to make you want to put blinders on me. Okay? I've had too much in my life want to put blinders on me. That's why I'm part of the community here on YouTube that I am a part of. So, that's all I got. Alexa, play Nickelback.